All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Area 51 Indy series here on Green White Checker TV. It is the season 7 finale at Texas Motor Speedway. We've got 4 drivers that are going to be going for that championship here tonight. So you see all those it's no points, no bonus points. All it's going to matter is who finishes the best of these 4. So it's going to be down to Henry Bennett, Craig Forsythe, Charles Teed, and Matt Wagner. So say obviously the ones that have really kicked off Charles Teed with those 3 wins in a row to open up the season, and then Henry Bennett kind of went on a tear there, getting about 4, actually looks like 5 wins throughout the course of the season thus far. 4 during the regular, and then of course winning last week at Chicagoland to make sure he advanced into it. Craig Forsythe, he got that win at Dover 2 weeks ago to lock himself into that Final Four right off the get-go. And then Matt Wagner, had a win during the season in Phoenix, and then he's just been putting out some really stout results week in and week out. So he's been able to keep himself up in that championship HUD. So those are going to be our final 4. And it's going to be exciting to say Texas. This is the new configuration, so turns 1 and 2 a little bit slower. They won't be foot to the floor there. 3 and 4 definitely going to be going full tilt through there. And yeah, it's gonna be pretty exciting to see how things are gonna be panning out for these guys, because I think it's gonna be a pretty tricky one here tonight. And so I believe probably making some laps right now in qualifying trim is gonna be my partner in crime, Steve Gottschalk. So Steve, I know you did some race trim. You're switching over to Q trim now. What's it feeling like for you?
Well, as I mentioned a little while ago, the car feels, I don't know what it is. I mean, I have this problem with Indy cars a lot, but the steering just is a little bit twitchy to me, even at a 6 for the steering, which is supposed to be the slowest steering. And it's flat out all the way around in qualifying, flat out all the way around in race trim by yourself, but you have to be careful in 1 and 2, because if you take an early apex and come in too low, then you definitely push on exit. So I'm having a lot of trouble staying off the apron in 3 and 4. And I'm wondering if these guys are going to have any kind of similar problems, because the car just, when I get down there on the line, it wants to get sucked onto the apron, and I have trouble keeping the steering smooth and staying off it. And if you hit the apron, you're going around.
Yeah, so you definitely do not want to touch the apron here. That'll make these cars very angry. I think qualifying just is still got a few minutes remaining there. You see just over 2 minutes left. So as I'm going to do here, Steve, we're going to try to grab our championship contenders. We'll see if they're ready for us or not. But we're going to pull them all in together just to make it that much more awkward, as I believe they've all put down their qualifying laps now, and they have. So let me go ahead and pull all of these fellas in here. And we're going to talk to all of them at once, because what's more fun than to have a championship battle there with a pre-interview with all of our drivers here. So we're pulled in here. We've got Henry Bennett, Matt Wagner, Charles Teed, Craig Forsythe. So I'm going to start with our season opener winner, Charles Teed. Obviously, you kicked things off strong with those 3 in a row. Just finish up your qualifying laps. What are your thoughts? What's going to be the game plan to try beat these other 3 guys tonight?
Well, I messed up qualifying, so that was a really good start. The times they threw up on the top row are just ridiculous. So we'll see how the race kind of comes together here. It's going to be an interesting one with the push into 1 and people adjusting their tools throughout. But one of these 4 has to win. These 3 are a hell of a good group, and I'll be really happy even with a 4th. So it's been a really fun season.
I'll say good luck to you, sir. We'll be keeping an eye out for you. We talked about the good looking paints game. I'm afraid to ask about the underwear for tonight. So we'll let you keep that a secret until maybe we get to reveal it at the end. But yeah, good luck here, Charles, and hopefully we'll see you towards the front here at the end of it.
We're gonna go commando tonight, so I think we had to mix it up. So we're going commando.
All right, that sounds dangerous, but it's worth a try. All right, so we're going to switch over to last week's winner, Craig Forsythe, in that 27 car. All right, Craig, 2 weeks ago winner, the winner at Dover to bring things in. I mean, you started half the season on hand controls, got your feet back, and so you got that win, and so you locked yourself in right off the bat. So it looks like you're going to be starting right around Charles here. What are your thoughts going into this one?
You need to survive the race. You need to be there at the end, of course. I never got below 24-1 in any of my practice runs. So Matt and Henry's laps are ridiculous. So now I need to draft my way up to them to be able to get past them.
All right, well, so I know we're starting the grid, so we'll let you get back up there, and then I'll try to get these two real quick as well. So good luck, Craig. All right, that's going to bring our front row drivers. We got Henry Bennett on pole position. 9 thousandths behind is Matt Wagner in the 11 car. Matt, you kind of pinned Henry as the one to watch pretty much from the beginning of the season when he was going to be joining in. So what's it going to take for you to try to obviously keep those two, Craig and Charles, behind you, and then to jump around that 007 here tonight?
It's going to take a lot of luck. Henry is a great driver, no doubt in my mind. He set an example throughout this whole league with a whole bunch of wins and his talent. So hopefully I can use his talents against him tonight. So looking forward to the race. Good luck out there, guys.
All right, good luck, Matt. Looking forward to seeing you here this evening as well. And that's going to leave us just the one driver left to chat with, and that is going to be that 007 Henry Bennett. Henry, obviously a really successful season so far tonight. Like I said, you just want to get to that top 4. Now you've got the chance to do so, getting that win. Obviously, you clinched your way into this one. So got 100 laps to try to get it done here tonight. Obviously starting in the ideal spot. What's the game plan for this evening?
Stay in the lead and don't die.
That's a pretty straightforward strategy. That's what you got. I mean, you're not wrong though on that one. So I know pit strategy is going to be pretty tricky as well. So but you seem to have a pretty good knack on these things. So we'll let you get to it, Henry. Good luck, and hopefully we'll be chatting with you here again soon. All right, so that is our top 4 drivers, our playoff drivers here tonight, Steve. Like I said, didn't have a lot of time, tried to run through it real quickly. We got to run through our grid real quick.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, sir.
I find a little irony in somebody driving the 007 car with a British accent saying that his goal is don't die.
That's a good point. All right, so you got our starting grid. You see right there, Henry Bennett, Matt Wagner, front row. Row number 4 is going to be Craig Forsythe, Charles T. Those are our playoff contenders. However, you see still got David Payton, Jimmy Dryden, Anders Arhus, Alec Coates in the top 8. And last 2 on the grid, you got Michael Spell and John Brill.
So we have a slightly smaller field than normal tonight, and that'll at least make it a little easier than the guys that are coming from behind that didn't qualify quite as well.
Yeah, you're very right. The other thing that could come into play, the fuel window, I was hearing it might be in the low 30 range. So of course you want to have control of this race and kind of have the track position, everything like that. As you see, everybody's down and back underway here. You see Matt Wagner going to try to quickly try to sneak underneath Henry. Henry having none of it. Oh, we got spin in the back off of turn number 2. That's going to put us under a quick yellow. Oh, the 83 of Jack Walls. He's going to make quick contact with the outside wall. I think he might be able to get this thing limped back to the pits here. Let's go see what happened. Not sure if he just got loose or maybe had a little bit of help potentially. Let's go take a look here. Let's say coming out of turn number 2, you see the 83 up on the top side. And say so far you can see he's just kind of off on his own here. So I'm thinking it might just those cold tires may have just stepped around on him here. So we'll keep a closer eye. Yeah, you can see it just starts to snap on him, unfortunately.
Yep.
However, you see the 48 of James Ledford just sneak by there on the inside there. So yeah, it's going to be a solo incident. I'm saying for Jack, I mean, it could be a lot worse. I mean, of course, he's going to have to burn the fast repair and then get back into it. But I'll say he's pretty much taken this whole season off. So he's kind of trying to get back into the swing of things here. So I'm sure obviously not the way you want to start your return. But at the same time, for it to be a solo split, I think that's probably about the best you can hope for. So right now I'm kind of peeking to see if there's any strategies here up front. Looks like everybody's going to go ahead and stay out here. What I think this could, though, do, Steve, is I think this might put drivers now in a pretty good spot on fuel to still be able to make it on a 2-stopper now after they'll be able to save a lot of fuel under this caution here.
Wonder if we'll have any takers on topping off.
We do have a few drivers in the pit. I'll say it's pretty much those that were in the back already. So you got James Ledford, Jim Brooks, Dwight Plush, Michael Spell, and John Brill. They all are going ahead and get some pit services done to their cars. And so we'll see. I'm curious to see if anybody else is going to top off at that 1 to go point or not. And actually looking at the pit stop time for James Ledford is a bit of a slower stop. So I wonder he may have actually had a little bit of wing damage somewhere as well in that 48. Because they say just by the extra time, it kind of looks like it might be like a front wing repair or something like that. So may have been a blessing for James to get that quick yellow as well.
So none of our championship contenders pitted. Will any come in and top off?
That's going to be a hard no. I think they're going to be going all for that track position. I say looking at the positions right now, not much of a change. Basically, Charles and Craig kind of traded spots at the start, so Charles has gone from 8th to 7th, Craig for 7th to 8th, so not a big change there. So it's obviously with that only that little bit of time before that yellow came out. So yeah, not a lot of big changes. The one big difference that's going to happen here though is I think this actually really helps Henry out as well, along with the fuel savings. Is that now it's going to be single file restart. He has control over this restart. So say it's going to be up to Matt to try to kind of react to that one. And we do have, like, those drivers that pitted under that yellow, they're going to top off here as well, Steve. So we do have about 5 drivers, those ones I mentioned previously. They are all going to top off here as well. I think, like you said, maybe trying to do a little bit of fuel strategy, try to stretch their tank that little bit more over the rest of the field.
Yeah, I mean, if you're all the way in the back, you got almost nothing to lose by doing that. So that's what I would do if I was back there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great strategy. I mean, I ran a couple of Indy 500s over the weekend, and I learned a lot about these cars with the weight jackers, the ARBs, and then the fuel maps. You can save a ton of fuel in the drafts with these cars when you're running fuel map 3, fuel map 5, because the draft, we talked about how powerful the draft is, and it is very powerful. So I mean, you can save, I'd say, at least 3, possibly more laps than that, just by being in the draft and being able to run that higher fuel map. So Henry Bennett, he's going to have to probably run full rich here to hold Matt Wagner off, but you kind of wonder maybe Matt's going to try to use some pit strategy around that 007 if we get that green flag run that we'll be looking for.
Okay, well, if you were running like a map 3 or a map 4, I'll ask the question when we get our next break.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Yeah, as I say, I'll try to remember as well. As Henry Bennett, he is down and away. You see Matt Wagner was ready for that good restart by him. And Jimmy Dryden, to say again, not one of our playoff contenders, but Jimmy's been really strong these last couple of races. I think he's going to be one. So hopefully he'll be able to roll over here for season 8 with Area 51. So I think Jimmy's going to be one. I think that was really good chance to be in that top 4 at the finale as well.
Yeah, definitely. He's been very strong the last few races, and I think especially on the fast tracks, he's very good.
Yeah, I see wasting no time. Matt Wagner in that number 11 car trying to get to the outside of Henry. I think if there's a spot to do it, this is where it's going to be, Steve. I think if he can get that top side rolling on 3 and 4, or sorry, 1 and 2, I think he can maybe make something happen. With 3 and 4, there's just not enough speed here. I mean, you're full tilt here. I don't think there's going to be anybody lifting at all. But what Matt can do, though, is he can use this draft here. Like you see right now, he's going to kind of peek to the outside of Henry, make Henry kind of keep it pinned to the inside. Say maybe scrub that little bit of extra speed there, maybe get him to wash up that little bit on exit to make a move on it. But I think with these fresh tires, I think Henry's going to be feeling really good about that line that he's got right there, as we saw. So it's going to be all about, I think, Matt trying to make that right move at the right time in that number 11.
Yeah, I think so. And it looks like Henry's really going to protect the bottom, so he's kind of forcing Matt to try and pass him on the outside, which looks like it's going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, so I think it'll be when the tires wear. I think that's going to be the question mark of when you can have it happen. Oh, we got our back under caution here, Steve. It looks like it may have been the 11 of Gary Corley. Car's down on speed, but looks like car's in good shape here, so we're under yellow. I don't see anybody else off the pace, so I think it may have been a solo incident for Gary. Let's go back and see. So we're watching Gary Corley here come out of turn number 4. He just snaps loose on the exit of 4 there, Steve. Has to try to chase it, gets it onto the grass in the front stretch. There's a little bit of off-roading there, which these cars, they're so stiffly sprung. That's definitely not what you want to have happen. I say it does a good job holding it steady here through, but oh man, he gets some big bounces there at the end. Almost a couple of little wheelies there, and then you can see just grabs the wheel. You see Michael Spell barely avoids him as well. And then unfortunately that last little bit's what sends him spinning around. You see he makes a good adjustment as well on the wheel. Actually does make a little bit of contact with the inside wall before he loops it around. So it might actually be some decent damage to that to the number 65 car of Gary Corley. Might have to take a fast repair. And on the pit stop side of things here, Steve, again, it looks like everybody's opting for track position.
I'm watching from Gary's in car, and I mean, he had the wheel held really smooth coming off that turn. It just snapped around on him. I'm surprised, but that's twice now we've seen cars do that.
Yeah, and I did talk to some drivers. They mentioned when you were low on fuel and on older tires, that's where it's really going to get tricky through the trial. But yeah, that just seems like it kind of got loose on him. And trying to see, can't tell if he used a fast repair. Now I saw the wheel kind of cocked over to the right a little bit to keep it straight. So I think that may have been that left front suspension damage. I think he may have had to use that fast repair there. Not 100% sure, must say. But actually right now, looking at the pit stop time, he's in the 15, 16 seconds. So I think he's actually opting to see if his crew can maybe get this thing repaired manually to give him a chance at this one. And what that did also do, that gave Jack Walls a lap back, so he's gone from 2 down back to 1 down in the 83 car. And I say, Steve, for once I didn't forget something, and I know you had something you wanted to run through here before on the next caution.
Oh yeah, okay. So you're at Indy. You're running, say, a fuel map 3 or fuel map 4, with 1 being the one that burns the most fuel. Are you able to actually stay with the leaders and not lose ground?
I will say, so I was never in this the second position using the fuel map to really get probably the best tell that I could for it. However, there were times where even the biggest issue, of course, being in the draft is aero push. So when you do it, it's critical that you can actually get a good exit off of 2 and off of 4, especially to be able to kind of run them down on the backstretch and not lose that time. Because I did notice I would kind of switch between 3 and 5 just to see, and yeah, the car would definitely suck up a lot better in 3 than it would in 5. So at a track like here at Texas, I feel like in 3 and 4, say again, if you have the aptitude to do it, which I'm definitely not there. But like Craig mentioned at Dover, kind of bouncing between the fuel maps through the turns and the straightaways to protect his positions. Matt Wagner, I mean, he could do something along those lines in the 11 car where maybe coming out of turn number 2, he has to be a little richer, but then once he gets onto that straightaway and gets the toe of Henry Bennett, he could probably go to map 5, because at that point, you're foot to the floor all the way through 3 and 4, through the front stretch back into turn number 1. So, I mean, he could run about half a lap saving fuel in that 11 car potentially.
I'm wondering also how that would affect the handling, if it would make it push a little bit less because he's not putting as much power down.
That's a good question. I feel like it'd be more aero dependent than anything than the fuel maps. But and I mean, because I was in the mindset too of like, okay, why not just run fuel map 1 and just kind of control the throttle with the pedal, or control your speed with the pedals. And I tried it that way, and then I tried using the fuel maps, and the fuel maps every time would save me so much more fuel. Like I mentioned, with the full fuel stint at Indy, of course, they were running the 100% fuel. You would gain, it was about 30 laps or so on a full load of fuel. But when you would actually run the fuel map 3, fuel map 5, I mean, I would get up to about 33, 34 laps at times on the fuel side of things.
Wow, that's a significant savings.
Yeah, and I mean, there was one race that I was in where it panned out that way, where the driver that won the race that I was in, he actually saved fuel for 2 full fuel runs. Whereas the leader had to top off at the end, he was able to stretch his fuel number and make it to the end on 1 less stop, and so that got him that win in that iRacing split. So I mean, let's say obviously speed is good to have, but if you can pull a strategy off and stay committed to it and it works out, it sometimes works out very, very well for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And so now for the top-off strategy, Steve. Again, we have a few drivers that pit under yellow, a few that topped off here as well on the 1 to go. And that's going to give them about a 10-lap advantage here over those that have yet to pit. Right now, the top 10 drivers have yet to make a pit stop in tonight's race. Alec Coates in 11th on back have made at least one stop here tonight. Of course, now just being that couple laps ago. So it's going to hand it back over to Henry Bennett again. We'll see if Matt can get another restart like he did that last time, because he was right on the gearbox of that 007 on this last one.
And I didn't see how this happened, but Craig Forsythe has moved up to 5th place. So he's definitely passed a few cars.
Yeah, you're right. Craig's made a couple big moves here early on. So back under green here at Texas. Right now we are on lap 13 of 188 to go. Again, there are no green-white checkers here. Actually, as I said, the 99, big contact with the inside wall. He's pointed straight here, so he might be okay. Nope, as I said, yellow does come out. And I think it's just those cold tires, Steve. Jimmy Dryden just kind of got loose off of 2. I think, honestly, looked about identical to what happened to the 83 of Jack Walls there on the fresh tires here. We'll pull it back up and take a closer look. But, yeah, it just looked near identical from what we saw there a little earlier.
Yeah, it did. And I guess the thing that's interesting to me there is Jack Walls was on the outside line when it happened to him. Jimmy Dryden's the first one to have that happen on the inside line in turns 1 and 2. So I don't know. It's rough to see these guys having this kind of trouble.
Yes, they must be obviously a difficult one tonight. The other thing I want to look at too is watch from Craig Forsythe here. We're going to hop on board that the 27 car. As he comes through 1 and 2, Steve, I saw the nose cone pop off of that 99 car of Jimmy Dryden, and Craig almost gets into it, which could cause damage to his car. So you see the smoke. There's the nose cone, and Craig just skirts to the left of it. It looks like maybe that right front just nicked it. But yeah, so a really close call though for Craig Forsythe, as well as those things will definitely give you some damage to your cars. However, I think before that caution came out, Craig did get around the 38 of David Payton as well. You mentioned he was 5th in that last restart. Now he's going to be up in that 3rd spot behind Matt Wagner and Henry Bennett.
And I'm looking at the in-car from Jimmy Dryden, and it looks like the same thing that I saw in the last one. He wasn't like steering the wheel too far to the left, and all of a sudden it just grabbed and spun. It looked like he had the wheel in the perfect position to come off the turn normally, and then it just came around.
Yeah, I wonder if there's maybe a section of the track. I think it's Michigan. There's the drivers have mentioned there's like a spot where it really makes it twitchy on these cars, but it might honestly just might be the cold tires and temperatures of the tires not having pressures and temperatures built up in them yet. So I say it's going to be definitely keep a couple drivers kind of on their guard here. I'm sure it's going to make these top 4 drivers in the playoffs very nervous, seeing that some of these guys are having these issues right off these restarts as well. So again, we have a few more drivers go ahead and again pit this time. So again, right now the leader's Henry Bennett. He's been saving a ton of fuel in that 007 car with these laps under caution here against our 3rd caution here in the 15 laps of this race. So they haven't gotten to the kind of in the groove that we're used to seeing them here. Again, just seems like it's kind of a difficult track and setup combo for these guys so far this evening.
And we're definitely now within range of these guys being able to make it a 2-stop race.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's pretty much a definite 2-stop race. And I think even more importantly, I think it's probably at this point a full rich 2-stop race as well, where these drivers can probably just pedal to the metal all the way around through the end. Obviously, they're going to have to start slowing up a little bit in 1 and 2 as the tires wear. But I think for like Henry Bennett, again, like I said, kind of playing defense right now, having to try to keep that 11 of Matt Wagner behind him. I think Henry doesn't have to stress about the fuel numbers anymore. I feel like he probably feels pretty confident that he can just go full tilt here. Like you said, Steve, make it on those 2 stops, because right now we're at 85 to go. So I believe we're going to restart with about 83 to go if my numbers are going to be right here. And just based on that, I think, I'm going to do some quick math here. It's always dangerous.
While Gael does his math, I will point out that Craig Forsythe is up to 3rd place. So we have championship contenders in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And let's see, Charles Teed in 7th.
Yeah, so I went back and looked. Yeah, so it's going to be basically, if he splits it evenly here, Steve, he would basically need to run from, at this point, it'd be 20 laps per run to make it on a 2-stopper here. With you kind of accounting for like a 83 to go on the restart. So basically, if he can run 28 laps here before he makes a pit stop, I feel like that will definitely get him in that window to do a 2-stop strategy, and like I said, be able to kind of be aggressive with his fuel numbers as well.
28 laps from this point, or pit on lap 28?
28 from this point, I'm sorry. Yeah, so right now we're on lap 16, so whatever 28 laps is from there, or now 17. So actually, it'd be 28 laps from lap 18. So I'm going to let you do the math on that one, because I closed my calculator.
Well, you're talking 45 laps on the first tank. I suppose it's possible with all the caution laps we've had.
Yeah, it'll be, I say it is going to be a little bit on the tight side, but like I said, it sounded like drivers thought they could go about 30 to 33 on fuel on kind of regular circumstances. And so, I mean, we've had now 11 laps under caution. We're going to go back green this time around. Again, a few more drivers did top off on this one to go as well. So that's going to be, I think, could be pretty important part of this race here, Steve, is if these guys try to kind of go off strategy, just run their fuel as long as possible. Because, I mean, a lot of times we'll see cautions during a pit stop cycle. And so that's going to be something that some of these drivers have to keep in mind here for tonight. So I'm a little surprised that Charles Teed hasn't kind of gone for an off strategy in the 5 car. But I think, again, still opting for that track position. I mean, he's in 7th, but I mean, 7th definitely looking a lot better, of course, than being around, let's say, 15th or so had he pitted there.
Yeah, he may just be, running comfortable and saving fuel right now, and letting those guys push it and race really hard.
Yeah, exactly right. So Henry Bennett, again, setting the pace here. He's down and away. Going to restart here on lap number 18 at the line, 83 to go. Again, Matt Wagner gets a pretty good restart there, but now he's going to have to watch his mirrors because, again, we mentioned the 27 Craig Forsythe. He is back out on track and in that 3rd position here. He's been able to make some really good gains since his qualifying position.
And he looks like he's got something figured out on this track.
Yeah, Craig is looking very racy. Again, you see Matt Wagner is going to peak to the top here out of 4. And so this is where now Craig can kind of make this a little more interesting for these guys. And I think Craig being in the mix here has made Matt have to really ramp up his aggression a little bit. I mean, see, right there, you see Craig gets all sorts of aero wash behind both of those cars. Really has to back out of it, cost him a ton of track position there.
Yeah, he pushed up really badly, but this is the time to learn what your car is going to do in those circumstances.
Yeah, exactly right. And for Craig, that's a really good thing too. It's like, okay, this was really pushy behind Henry here. Do I need to run the 3rd line, or do I need to just maybe adjust something in the car, the A or B, the weight jack, or what do I need to do to get this thing to kind of handle these turns better? But you can see, I think with like I said, Craig being in this mix now, I think it's definitely made Matt have to ramp up his aggression here.
One thing that I've observed with the Indy cars, that people who are not that familiar with these, that are more stock car types like I am, is the way that the draft works in these. The car that's behind is the one that benefits. In stock cars, you got both cars benefiting. So like right now, Craig Forsythe is pulling out behind Matt Wagner, and if this was a NASCAR race, then the strategy would be, if he wants to help Matt Wagner get by, stay on the outside and use the combined draft of the 2 cars to push Matt Wagner to the front, because his draft would be making Matt go faster also. But it doesn't work that way in Indy cars.
Yeah, saying it's not you can't lay a bumper to him and say, because that'd be at that point a front wing, and say that's not going to usually end well for either of those cars. But yeah, so right now, say Matt's definitely doing what he can do. He's getting, I feel like, a little bit closer as the tires are starting to wear just that little bit. So he's definitely keeping that pressure on. A little further back, Anders Arhus, he was having a good little battle there with the 6 of Bud Steele right behind him. And then creeping into the picture, we mentioned our other championship contender, that 5 of Charles Teed. He's right there watching this fight as well. And same for Charles, he has to try to figure out where does he need to position his car. He's got that dirty air in front of him. So you have to try to balance that. You saw there, the Ivan Plottin, the 75 got real tight there out of 2, I'm sorry, able to hang on to it. But again, you see the 6 and the 10 here running side by side through 3 and 4 as they come through the tri-oval. And again, we mentioned that's where things get a little dicey, and it looks like Anders is going to hang on to that position for the moment. Yeah, these guys are getting really tight off of turn 2 right now, Steve.
Yeah, I'm watching Craig Forsythe pretty closely, and it seems like he's able to really gain on those two from 3 and 4 through the front stretch, and then coming off of 2, he loses it all. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking the third car in line is probably getting a lot more aero push than the second car.
Oh yeah, most definitely, yeah. Because right now he's kind of stuck between trying to figure out. You almost have to position your nose almost between the two cars to avoid that arrow push. Otherwise, you're going to have to go really high to avoid it. As I say, right now, kind of Charles Teed is in that exact boat right now. He's kind of pinned between these two guys right here, the 10 and the 6 car. And again, you can see how much he's having to lift out of the throttle to avoid that arrow push. And so he's in a difficult position right now because there's not a lot he can do. And it's the same thing like you mentioned, Steve. He can gain a ton of time through 3 and 4. Again, that's where you're pretty much definitely wide open here, even in the dirty air. Then once you have to slow down for 1 and 2, that's where things get very, very tricky.
Yep, and I'm sure that Craig is trying all different kinds of stuff with the gas pedal and the line that he's taking to try and not lose so much ground to those two guys. And Matt Wagner he's almost took the lead.
Yeah, I think actually Matt Wagner had the lead at the line that last time by there, Steve. So, and that's going to be something that Matt's going to keep in his notebook there. He's going to say, all right, I can run this topside. I can get around him. And actually, Matt Wagner, he's going to take the point there. And I wonder if maybe Henry started getting a little bit of dirty air from the 83 just in front of them, of Jack Walls here in the 83 car. Say right now, as I said, we got a caution in front of the leaders. It looks like everybody's going to get through okay. It looks like it was the 90 of John Brill who went around. So that's going to bring out the caution. I think this is a huge break, Steve, for those drivers that were going to be trying to make that fuel strategy work here. Because I think they were still probably a ways away for their pit stop, but I think they're probably starting to feel a little nervous about green flag pit stops.
Yep, but they're definitely all going to pit here, so.
And it looks like, from what I'm seeing here for John Brill, just caught the apron, kind of that straddled the line between the apron and the banking there. And we talked about how stiffly sprung these cars are, and any little bit of contact like that's going to make things very difficult. But you see, luckily he was able to bounce off the wall, kind of down to the inside there, went straight into the pits afterwards. So we'll jump back live because we got some pit stops here. It looks like right now not a lot of strategy from these guys that are up front. Curious to see if anybody's going to opt to try to do some track position. Looks like we will have one. It's going to be the 37 of Alec Coates. But we're going to watch this pit stop here because let's say this is going to be crucial for these guys to have this battle to try to win this race off pit road.
And I would imagine they're all going to take 4 tires and full fuel. So should be Craig.
It looks like Matt's going to win that race out of the pits. Henry Bennett second, Craig Forsyth in third. So we'll jump back to see where Charles Teed is here cycling out. Looks like Charles is going to cycle out in the 7th position overall. However, during the pit stop cycle, I believe he was behind a couple of those cars. So I think he gained a few spots through the cycle here. So I say right now it's showing in 7th position. That doesn't, that's also including Alec Coates that stayed out there. So on fuel or on the pit stop side of things, he comes out in that 6th position. I want to say he went in around the 8th or so spot. So a good cycle there for that 5 car.
Definitely.
However, pulling some strategy here, Steve, is going to be that 37 of Alec Coates. You see him right now through 3 and 4. I say one thing it does do is you see that car right behind him of Jack Walls is traps him down a lap there, so he's not going to be able to get that lap back. So I say for Jack, he's probably going to have to duck in here. We'll see if he decides to pit or not, because I say this one he's not going to get that lap around. But looks like Jack's going to stay out, so I think what will happen is he'll just get cycled to the back. The 2 cars we do have down laps right now, Jimmy Dryden, he is back out on track. He's just 1 down. Jack Walls 2 down at the moment here. So yeah, so right now I was saying Jimmy looks like he's going to hit pit road right now in that 99 car. So hopefully he still has a chance at this one. So we talked about his pace. He's been really quick, but unfortunately just got bit with that turn 1 and 2 on that last restart.
And I'm showing that Alec Coates last pitted at lap 10, so he's got 21 laps run on this tank so far.
Yep, yeah, so I'm showing about the same. Mine's saying 23 laps. I think that accounts for the in lap as well. So, so this is going to be interesting, Steve. I feel like I'm trying to think if anybody can pull a big fuel number here, because let's say we're going to be restarting here with, I'd say about, let's say 67, 68 to go. I think, again, if this thing can go green, some of these guys maybe try topping off here, maybe try to pull some fuel mileage, see if they can stretch that fuel number. They could potentially make this a one-stopper to the end if they can really run this fuel long. I don't think any of our championship contenders will, but I'm looking at the back with some of these guys. So I don't know if Jim Brooks will either, Steve, because we mentioned him being one of those drivers that have been pitting and topping off a lot. I don't think this time he will, because he's actually got some pretty decent track position now. He's going to be in the 8th position, but I'm looking a little further back. I think if you're like a Dwight Plush, a James Ledford, I take the gamble here. I top off, and you see here come a couple. Michael Spell's actually going to lead them in. So we are going to have a few drivers topping off here on this one to go, and I think, I mean, again, if you're kind of towards the back of the lead pack here, I think this is the perfect opportunity to try this out and run this fuel number, because if we do get that green flag run that we see very often here at Area 51, if they can kind of work their numbers here, they could be in a really good position if they can save that one pit stop.
Yeah, definitely, because if this thing goes green the rest of the way, it's going to be really tough for these guys, the ones that didn't top off, to make it a one-stop race.
Yeah, exactly right. And so, I mean, we're going to restart here, Steve. 68 to go now, 67 to go at the line. I mean, so basically you do the math there, one stopper, that's what, 33 and a half laps. So basically round it up to 34, obviously. So if anybody can go 34 laps on fuel, and I think a lot of these guys are probably thinking they can, but you have to wonder how much fuel save they have to account for that. Whereas maybe those guys that topped off, maybe they can get that little bit extra, run that full rich. We saw that came into play at Dover a few weeks back, so we could see another thing like that here tonight at Texas.
If you're one of the championship drivers, sometimes you're just doing that monkey see, monkey do thing.
Yeah, so you don't want to lose too much track position on the strategy side of things. And I think, again, watching, I think they know, again, they have the tools in the car. If you're maybe not leading this pack here, if you're a Matt Wagner, or Matt Wagner, or Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth, or Charles Teed, you can save fuel. You can run that map 3, that map 5, maybe, and stay in this draft, and that might be enough to save that little bit of a bonus here as we go back to green. So right now, again, Alec Coates is our race leader. He stayed out there. He's got about 20 more laps on his tires and fuel than the leaders do. But we'll see how his car fares against these guys. And say Matt Wagner wasting no time. He wants to set the pace here. He's going to jump to the inside in turn number 3.
Yeah, a huge difference in the speed coming off of 2.
Yeah, I think Alec probably not fighting as hard as he could here. Again, I say a lot of these guys are going to kind of know what's on the line. They're going to probably be a little more courteous to our top 4 drivers here tonight. As I say, you can see our top 3 are back up in the front here again. Let's say now Matt Wagner at the point. We saw him get that lead, though, over the course of that fuel run, was able to finally work around Henry Bennett. So let's say we'll see if maybe Henry is going to be able to try to return the favor here over the course of this run, potentially.
It's possible that Alec wanted to let those guys by so he could catch some draft and save fuel.
That's a really good point, because, yeah, he hasn't dropped too far back. Oh, I think I just saw one spinning off of 2. Oh, yeah, we have a few cars involved here. See the 75 of Ivan Pla and the 10 of Anders Arhus. Oh, just the very end also, you see, I think that's the 90 of John Brill getting caught up in that one as well. So looks like about 3 cars involved in this caution here. So that's going to put us back under yellow, Steve. And I think this is going to definitely kind of throw the pit strategy, I think, going to throw it for a little bit of a curve here. So we'll take a look here coming out of turn number 2. Oh, it looks like, the 10 of Anders Arhus just maybe had a little bit of a bobble there, had to lift out of it. And just the closing rate of these cars is just so quick. There's not a lot you can do. And I see the 77 Benjamin Combs. He may have caught a little piece of that as well. So they're going to see if that car actually does have that left front dent. Oh, there it goes. Sometimes it shows it kind of magically repairs itself. But yeah, so unfortunately, though, the 75 and the 10 cars both getting some pretty decent hits there. So it's going to, again, be some fast repairs here being taken. And I think this is that fuel savings I think a lot of these drivers are hoping for. And one of those drivers you mentioned there, the 37 Alec Coates, Steve, he does hit pit road here on this yellow. So I think unfortunately that strategy call that he pulled wasn't going to quite pan out, so he opts to go ahead and pit here. So say brings us back under yellow with 63 to go. Matt Wagner still being shown as our race leader, and Jimmy Dryden here, he's going to get his lap back, and this will put him back onto the lead lap here, Steve. So it's going to give us 14 cars on the lead lap.
Considering how fast Jimmy was early in the race, this should be interesting to see how far he can work up through the field.
Yeah, I'd say this is a good opportunity for Jimmy. Obviously, so you'll have to be a little bit cautious with just having to be careful about no fast repairs remaining. Again, all the drivers do have the one fast repair they can use if needed. To say these cars obviously a lot more sensitive, so usually if you have damage, you're going to have to take a fast repair. But if it's like a front wing damage, maybe rear wing, they can replace those. You don't have to burn that fast repair, and you can get back out on track. But I think for Anders, Ivan, and John Burrell, I think those drivers all had enough damage where they probably have to burn one. And same for John, unfortunately, he already had used the one, so that might be it for him in that 90 machine. I'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, another example is Gary Corley. We saw him have his little issue. A little bit of contact with the wall, but I believe he was able to keep that fast repair in his back pocket for later on tonight, just opting to get some damage repaired to that car.
I'm going to guess that Alec Coates probably... I mean, we've seen races with these cars where even if your tires are 20 laps old, but you're very light on fuel, that you can actually run as fast as the cars that are full fuel on new tires. I'm guessing that he went out, and when the green came out, that he quickly found out that it wasn't working quite that way here.
Yeah, and I think also Matt was just so quick on that restart. He basically was leaving nothing to chance there. Wanted to try to get that track position before everybody kind of got fully up to speed. And I think that's really what you have to do. You have to really hustle these cars to try to make what you can happen early. Because like I said, once these things get up to speed, I think it's then going to almost take the course of those tire run for those drivers that are able to kind of manage their tires maybe a little bit better to then have that opportunity to make those passes, especially if it's towards the front for the lead.
And Alec, I mean, he didn't lose too many spots. He's back to 9th now. And I just like to point out that's a very colorful, nice looking car.
Yeah, it's a really good paint scheme there on that 37 car. So I think it said NRN on the side. So I say hopefully we can pull some interviews with these guys. Actually, you know what? I can do it better. We can get a better shot of that car once I find the right camera angle. There it is. I say it looks like, yeah, I want to say that's NRN on the side. I say, unfortunately, I don't know what it stands for. So yeah, so actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's see. Is there an Alec Coates in our Discord? We could quiz him here real quick. Unfortunately, I do not see him, so we can't put him on the spot, unfortunately, this evening. But hopefully, maybe we'll get a top 3 interview out of him. Then we can find out what it's all about. As it looks like we just got the 1 to go here. So we're going to restart this race here, Steve, with 60 to go. And at this point, I think at this point they probably feel pretty decent about the fuel mileage, but it's still going to be tight. I mean, we're going to restart here. And so we talked about the fuel mileage, Steve. I mean, if they can split this run in half, that'd be 30, pitting with 30 to go. But they've already done 10 laps on this fuel run, so you have to wonder, is this realistic for these guys, or is it still going to be on the tight side?
And I would like to point out that Michael Spell, who managed to get into the playoffs but didn't make the final round, has just topped off, and so did James Ledford.
Yeah, and I think, again, I like the strategy call. I mean, if it's going to be this tight on fuel, you might as well take the gamble again. I mean, if you can run that extra couple laps in the leaders, I mean, if you get a caution come out in the middle of pit stop cycles, and these cars, I mean, at speed, they're running 24-second laps, Steve. So if you make a green flag pit stop, you're going to get lapped. So I really like the strategy by Michael and James here to say try to see if you can maybe get some of the guys around that way. So we're going to find out here in just a little bit. Again, we're going to get back going again here, lap 40. We're going to start 41 here with 60 to go at the line.
And they're off.
Yeah, Matt got a good jump there on Henry there. So we've seen Matt just right on the tail block, or on the tail there of Henry Bennett on these restarts. But you see Matt this time was able to get about a half a second gap right off the get-go. Obviously Henry's going to be able to grab the toe and then suck right back up to him. I'd say it does give Matt at least a little bit of breathing room here for a lap or so.
Definitely. And when you're the leader, anytime you can get a little breathing room, that's always a nice thing.
Yeah, say what this does open the door, say for Craig Forsythe, say it opens some opportunities here for him. He's going to take it right away. He jumps to the inside here, but you can see there Henry Bennett really gets some great momentum off of 2 there. I thought for sure Craig had it with those fresh tires on the inside line, but Henry held very strong there on the outside.
That's so too. I was actually kind of surprised at how much Craig Forsythe had to back off in the middle of that turn. Guessing he went really hot and then started to push up a little bit.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that he probably had the dirty air of Matt Wagner as Henry was able to run that clean air. As you see Matt trying to definitely block the toe as much as he can in that 11 car to keep Henry behind as long as he can. I think, again, this is probably something Henry learned. I say we saw Matt was able to get to his outside to get that pass done for the lead through the top side. So now you see Henry, he's going to try to work the top side here through 1 and 2. Again, both cars are going to have the clean air here. So Matt should have the short distance round, should help him propel back to the front. But again, I mean, I think Henry's going to definitely have something here. So he's seen it happen to him, so he knows that he can do the same to Matt if he can kind of just time this right and maybe get that 11 car to burn those tires off a little bit worse than his.
Yeah, the key seems to be if you can get enough of a run off of turn 2 to get a little bit past the car that's in the lead. You can potentially get by them in 3 and 4, but if you're not ahead of them going into 3 and 4, the guy on the inside has the big advantage, and Matt just blinked out.
Yeah, saying it hasn't shown back. Oh, there he is. So that's definitely a nerve-wracking moment for some of these guys, not knowing exactly where the guy is. So say, honestly, probably actually gives Matt a little bit of an advantage there, knowing that, as I said, he disappears again for a little bit. So I say drivers are going to be reporting that. They're going to be telling Matt, like, hey, you're kind of blinking on us here. And say sometimes the league will be like, hey, if you keep blinking like this, we're going to have you move to the back. So that could be something that they have to be very careful about. Obviously, a lot on the line. Matt's not going to have to do so, but so hopefully that connection steadies himself back out here. As I say, looking in the picture, though, also starting to bring a few more into this mix as well. We mentioned David Payton. He's been having a great season all season long, was in that final 8. So he's sitting there in the 4th position right behind him. Bud Steele is in 5th. And then creeping right in the back of that picture, Charles Teed. I think he's going for that fuel strategy thing right now, Steve. He's in a really good spot right now. You can see he's got the drop to these guys in front of him, but look at the gap behind him to Jim Brooks in that 51 car. So he's got about a solid second or so off of Jim, so he's got no pressure around him right now. He can just basically hit his mark, save fuel, and maybe see if he can pull some strategy out of that 5 car right now.
And Bud just made a move on David Payton on the inside in 1 and 2 and got by him.
Yeah, Bud's definitely trying to move the groove around. You see he's running pretty much the 3rd line there through 1 and 2 here. Again, I think just trying to keep the clean air on the nose of that car. But again, though, Matt's connection still having some difficulties. I actually don't see him back as of yet. So trying to see where that 11 car is. Hopefully didn't fall out completely. I'll have you keep an eye on that up there. Matt pops back in again. But say these guys are going to start getting pretty stressed out about this. And say probably none more stressed right now than Matt Wagner. And again, say knowing what's on the line in this, and say you never want your connection to be the reason to fall out of a championship hunt.
If Henry Bennett just backed out and said, I don't feel like following that anymore, or if he hesitated a little bit. But that Craig Forsythe had a tremendous amount of momentum off of 2 and just went right by Henry Bennett into 2nd.
Yeah, I think Craig's made some pretty good adjustments as well, Steve. He was actually, I think I just saw Jim Brooks catch the wall out of 2. Looks like the car's going to stay in one piece here. We'll see if he's going to have to maybe make an unscheduled pit stop or not. Or say right now he's kind of limping along on the inside line. You see he lost a lot of momentum. Yeah, that car is definitely hurting here. I don't think it's tracking like it should here, so we're going to keep an eye on him for the moment because I say this could bring out a potential yellow if he's not able to hang on to it, which say right now he's doing all right with it, but you can definitely see it's a handful right now for that 51 car.
So far, I'm noticing that Craig Forsythe is kind of following along in Matt Wagner's following his line, which is a little bit surprising.
Now, I was actually about to mention that as well, Steve. I think Craig's made some really good adjustments to that 27 car because it seems like he's actually able to stay in that dirty air in these types of races here. So I think that could bode well for Craig to be able to make a move once these tires start to wear that little bit more. But you can see now he's going to have to be a little more aggressive because here comes Henry Bennett. You see Henry running that third line, again, trying to keep the clean air on the front nose of that 007 car as well. But I say right now they're on lap number 24 since they've last pitted here, Steve. And say we talked about that fuel number. If they can get to that, maybe in that low 30s or so to go before they make that pit stop, this could be the last pit stop of the race here. Do need to mention Charles Teed. He's crept up now into the top 5. He's gotten around David Payton. And I feel like Charles probably trying to be pretty conservative on that fuel number, trying to see if he can make that number happen here in that 5 car.
Definitely being a little more aggressive now. He's gotten alongside Matt Wagner coming off of 4 a couple times, and actually was neck and neck with him down the backstretch the last time. It's just not far enough ahead to be able to take advantage in 3 and 4 and get by.
Yeah, as you can see right now, looking at the back of Matt Wagner's 11 car here, you see Craig just takes a peek of draft there, then peeks right back out. And that's really, I think, what it's going to come down to is trying to make that timing that run at the right time. As you can see right there, coming out of 4, gets a little bit of a draft there, tries to jump to the outside. Obviously, it wasn't enough to get to him at the line there. Those are going to be those things that Craig's going to be trying here, because it has given him a really good run through 1 and 2, though. As again, it's forcing Matt to really hug to this inside line here, which we saw earlier with Henry Bennett. It really forced Henry, I think, maybe use the step up a little bit too much, and that allowed Matt Wagner to grab the lead. So we'll see if that comes into play here, where Craig can maybe work over that 11 car, kind of keeping him pinned to the inside line.
And thank Matt's connection is stabilized, so it's a little easier for these guys to run side by side.
Yeah, I'd say all these drivers probably breathing a bit of a sigh of relief. I'm sure to some extent the other 3 are like, oh man, he didn't fall out. That would have been nice to have one less driver to have to fight with here. But yeah, so right now the top 3 have separated themselves just a little bit over the 6 of Bud Steele. And so you have to wonder at what point does Charles T, does he feel like he has to kind of push a little bit more aggressive to try to sneak around the 6 car? Again, so you want to, obviously you don't want to lose a lot of time here while you're doing what you're doing here, trying to save fuel, most likely, as we suspect that 5 car is. Because it's all good to save fuel, but I mean, if you start costing yourself seconds on the leaders here, I say that could come back to burn you as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see right now. They are on lap number 30 since their last pit stop, Steve. So we're on 41 to go here. It'll be 40 at the line. So the question is, can they go, let's say, maybe 8-9 more laps to maybe have a realistic shot of stretching this thing to the end on one stop?
And I think we'll know the answer soon. Because we know that Matt Wagner is notorious for not doing well at saving fuel and pushing it as hard as he can, which obviously with him leading right now, he's not saving any fuel at all. So if this thing stays green, he's going to be the one that shows us exactly how far these guys can go.
Yeah, and I think that might be, and we were talking about Henry Bennett kind of giving up some space. I wonder if that was Henry's plan there. It's like, you know what? If they do what they're doing here, they can't make it. I maybe can run my number here a little bit better than these guys. So that might be where Henry Bennett's kind of pulling some strategy as well in that 007 car. So it's going to be really intriguing. I say right now, we kind of, again, you got the race within a race, really. I say you're kind of having to do a little bit of both at the same time. So you're right, though. I mean, Matt Wagner, he can't save. I mean, he's got to do exactly what he's doing here, which is run pretty much protected inside line. I don't see there's any way that he can't run full rich right here to keep Craig Forsythe behind him. And then from there, I think you see Craig just forcing Matt all the way down to that white line, making him have to pretty much keep that thing pinned as low as he can. But same thing for Craig. I mean, you have to wonder, is Craig having to do the same here to keep that pressure on the 11 car? So you almost wonder if both of these drivers might be racing themselves almost out of the fuel strategy potentially.
Definitely. And I guess, Bud Steele, I think he's pretty good at playing the fuel savings game. He may spoil the party for these guys and take the win with what he's doing. And I think Charles Teed is probably being the wise one back there, definitely saving fuel and hoping these guys all have to pit too early to make it the rest of the way.
Yeah, either that or maybe have to actually go and conserve a little bit. We've seen that before. Like we talked about at Dover, Craig was actually changing fuel maps through the turns, basically, kind of switching between various maps during the race. So it could get very interesting here, because the thing is, okay, let's say they pit and they can make it on one stop. is it one stop at full rich or not? So that might be where Charles Teed gets kind of put in the catbird seat, where maybe he could run this thing on map 1, where these guys might have to bump it down a map or 2, or maybe just have to throttle it down a little bit to save to the end. So right now, like you mentioned, though, Bud Steele, he's crawled back up into this pack as well. But these guys, I mean, they're working the field pretty well here, Steve. We're going to cross line here. We got 34 to go. And actually, as I said, that 6 of Bud Steele just hit pit road, so he ran that thing as far as he could. Which I think I say that was 36 laps, but that's accounting for a lot of yellow laps as well. So I'm not feeling the most confident on the field number here, as you see Craig Forsythe starting to try to put some pressure on the 11 as well. So Matt actually gave up the bottom there, surprisingly, for a little bit there.
And Matt's still staying out there. I wonder if he turned his and Matt suddenly slowed a little bit. Like
I wonder
Craig.
I think that's a strategy call there, Steve. I think that's Matt having to try to save a little bit on Craig here now. Maybe that extra lap or so that you could save might be enough to make him be able to stretch it to a one-stopper to the end as well. So right now we got these top 3 all locked on together here. Craig Forsythe now showing as our race leader. We talked about the 5 of Charles Teed. He's fallen to about 2 seconds off this lead battle here. So I think whatever his strategy is he's staying committed to it. He doesn't want to kind of deviate from what he's doing here. I feel like he's trying to hit a specific number. But I mean, right now we're coming around here. It's going to be 31 to go at the line. None of our leaders are still pitting. So I feel like at this rate, I feel like that number is going to be pretty reasonable for them to be able to make that number here. So, because yeah, I mean, at this point now, Steve, if they pit this time around, this is going to be pitting at 30 to go. And I feel like these guys probably feel pretty confident on that. But I mean, look at the lead that Craig is starting to stretch now in that 27.
Forsythe just keyed up. I'm sure he's pitting. And I think the other guys are going to pit now too. And they'll be able to run full rich the rest of the way. Now, hopefully nobody screws up their pit entry.
It looks like a great entry by Craig and both Matt there. Henry Bennett, we talked about him maybe rolling out of the throttle, kind of a strategy call by Henry. He's able to stretch it, hopefully able to stretch, I should say, one more lap, so he's going to be able to potentially pit with 29 to go in that 007 car. As I said, though, Steve, caution is out here. It looks like it might be around the 83 of Jack Walls, and that was exactly what I was worried about. You can see the nose cone damage to that to the 83 car, and I think that's why you want to save as much fuel as you possibly can here. So let's see what happened to bring out the caution, and we're going to have to see where everybody cycles out as well, because this could really change the complexion of this race here.
Seeing that Henry Bennett and Charles Teed had not pitted yet.
Correct. They hadn't yet to pit. Oh, and actually, Jim Brooks was slowing down to pit. I don't know if Jack Wells didn't realize it or maybe just didn't hear him. That's where the contact was between the 51 and the 83. Amazingly, the 51 actually able to kind of grab a gear and keep going there. But unfortunately, I say for the 83, a pretty big hit for him. Say for Jim, I say you already had some damage, so I think it's just going to kind of force the faster pair on him. So now it's going to be kind of to see where everybody cycles around. Because I am showing Craig Forsythe, Matt Wagner a lap down. Yeah, there they are. They're going to be right there and having to take that wave around. So they're going to have to work really hard here, Steve, to try to get that track position back.
Wow, this is going to be a huge advantage for Henry Bennett and Charles Teed.
Yeah, this is definitely putting them in a good spot here after this caution. Because at this point, everybody's good to go on fuel to the end here. So I feel like, and there are no green-white checkers, so that's out of the question as well. So now it's just going to be pretty much an outright, pretty much sprint to the finish here for these guys. So job number one for Charles and Henry here is get a good stop, try to get back out in 1-2 positions here. And it looks like they've both had pretty clean pit stops. Charles is going to have to try, he's going to just sneak around the 38 of David Payton. And so that's going to put him into second, David Payton third. And look who's in fourth, Steve. We talked about him earlier, the 99 Jimmy Dryden. He's had a great cycle through here. He's going to come out in that fourth position, and we've seen the speed of that 99 car here tonight.
That's impressive. Good job, Jimmy.
All right, so the two that you see in front or behind the pace car, the 11 and the 27, those are our other two Championship 4 drivers. They're going to have to take the wave around here. They're good to go in fuel, I feel like, from at this point, but like I said, the track position, Steve, is just going to be brutal for them. They're going to be restarting in the teens here, where they've been around the top 4, top 5 pretty much all race long tonight.
Yeah, be killer. I mean, these guys, it's really going to be hard to work their way up through traffic. I think people will be, knowing how this league is, people will be respectful and let them by, but it's still going to be, it's a lot of distance to make up. And I don't see how they're going to be able to get back up to the front.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to do. So you also see the 10 Anders who's, I think Anders may have had a pit road speeding penalty because I noticed his pit stop was in the 48 second bracket, which usually entails a stop and hold penalty there because usually these pit stops are about 8 seconds long. So I think that was a 40-second stop and hold after his pit stop. So unfortunately that put him 4 laps down. He's going to get the wave round. It's going to put him back to 3 down. But I say same thing for him. He's going to be in a kind of in a tough spot here to try to get all those laps back before the end of this one tonight. All right, Steve. So say we haven't got the one to go yet, so we're going to probably restart here with, I believe, 25 to go. I mean, that's quarter distance mark left in the race here. And I mean, you see right now, you see Henry Bennett in that dark green car on the backstretch. Look at all those cars behind him. Those are going to be all the cars that the 11 and the 27 are going to have to try to find a way to get around to be able to get back up to those top 2. So yeah, they're going to definitely have their work cut out for them because, like I said, I'm sure some are going to be giving way. But when you start getting towards the top 5 or so, like Alec Coates, Gary Corley, Jimmy Dryden, even Benjamin Combs, I mean, they're in a good position here. I mean, you don't want to kind of give up the spots and lose positions for your own race as well. So it's gonna be tough sledding, I feel like, for those 2.
Yeah, especially if it stays green. I mean, they may be able to. They can pick off a few spots, but under green. But as they're picking off spots, they're still going to be losing time to the leaders, losing distance. There's still more cars they're going to have to pass. There's going to be the aero issues with that many cars ahead of them. So, they're going to need yellows to come out so that every time they pass a few cars, they can get closed up and have a chance to pass some more cars a little bit more easily and quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's actually, you hit the nail on the head there, Steve. They're gonna need cautions, and they're gonna need them at the opportune times as well. It's not gonna be one thing just to have the caution come out. It's gonna have to be at potentially a pivotal point in the race where, let's say maybe it's let's say they get maybe 10 something laps under green flag conditions. Get that caution out. Maybe some people pit, or maybe you play the opposite strategy where say, okay, nobody pitted there. I'm going to get tires and be able to use those to my advantage a little bit here. Or let's say that everybody but the top 3 pit, then they say, you know what, I'm staying out. I'm going to restart in that 4th position and be right back into the mix of this thing. So there's a lot of potentials that could come out and play in this one. Like you said, that right now Henry Bennett, Charles Teed, they made the fuel saving strategy call, and it definitely worked out for them. So now they've got 25 laps to go at the line. And I say right now those 2 are going to be the ones fighting out for that overall championship here. All right, Henry is down and away again at the line. 25 to go here at Texas for our Season 7 finale for the Area 51 Indy Series. And I say Henry Bennett gets a nice little jump there out of the gate. So now it's going to be up to Charles Teed. What can he do? I don't think Charles has shown his full hand here, so it's going to be interesting to see what Charles has in store for these guys on this remaining section of the race.
I'm watching in back. Whoa. Matt Wagner almost, he was going in 3 wide into 3 and thought better of it. Ended up down on the apron, had to get on the brakes to make sure he didn't spin out. Craig Forsythe has really driven aggressively and moved up a couple spots already.
Yeah, Craig's up to 11th now from that start. Looks like +2 on that last lap here. But like I said, still a long ways to go. So even with those positions he's gained, he's still in the 11th spot here. So saying the thing is, unfortunate with these green flag laps, they tick off quickly. So say right now Craig's going to have to do all he can here. Say pretty much having to probably run qualifying laps to try to get back up into the mix here. So you mentioned Matt Wagner. He's now trying to work over the 75 of Ivan Pla there. So that's going to move him up into the, I believe that's the 13th position. That's actually not, Ivan's not on the lead lap at the moment. So yeah, these guys having to work hard, Steve. But like I said, and Craig's in a pretty big cluster right now. You see he's working around some drivers there. Now got in underneath the 48 of James Ledford. He is now in the top 10, up into 9th behind Jim Brooks, who's in 8th. So I mean, he's making pretty good gains here quickly. Like I said, I think still at some point he's going to need that yellow to bring him back into the mix. And Right now, Charles T just hasn't been able to pull up onto the back of that 007 of Henry Bennett thus far on this run.
To get a little perspective, Craig Forsythe, he was 4.7 seconds back. He just slammed the wall coming off of 2.
Oh yeah, contact. You see Matt Wagner trying to get on the brakes. I think Matt was able to get away from the most, but you see him sneak underneath. That's going to bring the caution out. Not the caution Craig's looking for, as I say, unfortunately, that's going to put him in it. You see some right front and left rear suspension damage to that car. I think the 11 car may have got caught up in a little bit. Now actually looks like it's looking okay. I thought I saw a little bit of front wing damage, but I think a few other drivers got the worst end of that one. I think the 77 to 51 as well got some pretty significant damage. I think may have had to retire. So let's take a look here at Craig. So we're watching Craig here, and actually I'm wondering if it happened in front of him. I thought I saw Jim Brooks involved as well in this one, unless it was 2 separate incidents here. I'm looking at the 51. It looks like he gets really high off of 2. Yeah, actually Jim Brooks gets in the wall. Yeah, Craig Forsythe just follows him right in there. James Ledford follows through it as well. Almost like as if there's like oil in the track. I say that's not the case, but really big hits for those guys there. And then say we'll jump on board here with Matt Wagner. So we're still running low pace, but I mean, you watch Matt here. He's on the brakes, trying to do everything he can here to avoid this one. He's trying to guess right now, basically where Benjamin Combs is going to go, and just so close. I think just a little nick on the front wing, maybe between himself and the 77 car, but then he's able to kind of just sneak to the inside, barely avoid the 77 through that cycle. He is going to pit here though, along with the 27 car. So I'll say I think they both do have faster pairs remaining. You see, yeah, there goes Craig. He's already leaving the pits. Uses his faster pair. I'll say I'm not sure about Matt if he had to burn one or not on his car, but he is down and away as well. And it looks like they're going to restart in about 10th and 11th respectively on this next restart, which is going to come with probably around maybe 15 or just over 15 to go.
So Craig and Matt got the yellow that they needed.
But unfortunately both involved in it. And that's how it always works, I feel like, Steve. Whenever you want, that's what they always say, is you want a yellow, but you don't want to be the yellow. But it seems like whenever you want it, somehow it just finds you. But I mean, yeah, just whatever that was off of 2, just all of those drivers all had that bad push at the same time. I mean, it could have been where Craig, when you're following a car, some of you are kind of focused on that guy in front of you. So for in Craig's instance, so he might be following Jim and say, okay, I'm going to run that line as well. And then unfortunately, say Jim gets too high off of 2, he catches the wall, and then Craig's kind of committed to that same line. And I said, unfortunately, it kind of doesn't bode well for that. And I've been in that situation myself where, I feel like for me it's the blind leading the blind, where I'll get a bad exit off a turn, somebody behind me, I'll catch the wall, and I'll feel guilty about it, Steve. Honestly, I'll be like, oh, I led you astray there, didn't I? And so yeah, I usually wind up having to apologize for kind of giving them a poor line to chase after.
I call that monkey see, monkey do.
That is not inaccurate at all there, Steve. It is, and it's something that happens a lot with these guys.
And I've definitely done that myself.
All right, so unfortunately with that, though, I mean, that's still going to put, obviously, the advantage is still, obviously, with Henry Bennett, Charles Teed. And I say, just based on that last run, though, just Charles, it's something he mentioned even during his interview. He doesn't know where the pace that those guys have, where that pace is that they have. There have been races, though, where he kind of figures something out midway through. So, I mean, at this point, he's going to have to try to find something there to make that big charge here at the end, and say maybe try to take a couple of gambles, maybe make some adjustments that maybe keep the car a little faster. Might be uncomfortable, but maybe you can really wheel it. Let's say I think at this point he's going to have to try to do something to find a way to sneak around that 007 of Henry Bennett.
And then you've got David Payton and Jimmy Dryden and Alec Coates and Michael Spell, all kind of waiting in the wings behind these guys. They could factor into things here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because, I mean, you don't expect it, but I mean, we've definitely seen some championship races. Things get aggressive. You maybe take some risks that you wouldn't normally take. So, should something happen to the top two, saying hopefully it doesn't happen, and don't want to put it out there, but I mean, that could put one of these guys in opportunity to have a kind of a career finish, maybe get their first win in Area 51, or even some of the drivers maybe don't get the opportunity of having the podium finishes as often as they'd like to. So. I mean, yeah, there's again, there obviously the big focus is on the championship 4, but there's a lot to play for all of these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, typically for me, if I'm in David Payton's position or Jimmy Dryden's, what I'm thinking is, and maybe I'm too nice, but I'm like, I don't want to mess with those two guys. They're racing for a championship. I'm just going to sit back here and I'll be satisfied with third.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that point of view, and I'd probably honestly be in a similar position as well. It's one thing where when you really can kind of control your own destiny. I say with this one, obviously, where it's tough to pass, track position is so critical. I say it's definitely a very different situation on these ones, but maybe like a road course or something like that, where it's like, all right, I feel like I have that pace. It's where you kind of maybe run it a little bit differently on those types of races. So we're going to restart here, Steve. 16 to go at the line. Right now, again, top 2 in the championship, running in 1 and 2. The other two are in 10th and 11th. Actually, we got to stack up on the restart, Steve, and I think it looks like we're going to stay green, but we definitely had some troubles there, and I see the 44 Dwight Plesh going around. He's at the inside wall. No caution yet, so I think we're going to stay green, but that got really kind of got really clustered there pretty quickly. And unfortunately, I think Matt Wagner of the championship guys definitely got the worst of it. Oh yeah, he's missing his whole front nose cone. He's going to have to try to make this around, but he's going to have to hope for a yellow, Steve, because right now he's in a really bad spot here.
That's like the worst possible luck right there.
Yeah, so to get that far and then to have all these things happen to you, and it all kicked off, Steve, just with a bad timing of a caution, and as where we mentioned, some of those guys maybe trying to save fuel, pull that strategy off, and unfortunately, it's exactly what came into play. However, what I am noticing here, Steve, look at Charles Teed. He is starting to definitely pick it up a little bit. He's definitely starting to put some more pressure on Henry than he had been earlier. So line, we're going to be at 13 to go, and once they cross that line, and for Charles, I think he's going to have to start trying to figure out what he needs to do. Where does he need to get that run off, like kind of time the run to get to that outside of Henry Bennett to maybe try to make the move to try to see if he can get a win here tonight. Say right now you see, I think he loses. Right now it looks like I think he's losing too much here through 1 and 2 to get that big run through 3 and 4. So we'll have to keep an eye. You see one car slow there on the inside line. That's the 75 of Ivan Pla. That could potentially bring out a yellow. I'll say Matt Wagner, he is just not going to give up. He's going to stay running this top side here, or still stay running on track here, trying to hope for a yellow to not go down laps and maybe have a chance still at this thing at the end. And Craig Forsythe still holding in the 9th position. I think he got damaged from that restart as well, Steve, because he's not keeping up with that lead pack.
I was about to ask you about that. It looks like he's having a difficult time with that car.
Yeah, trying to take a look. I don't see anything that stands out, but definitely that car is not handling correctly. So, unfortunately, I think at this point it's pretty much a 2-horse race here. It's going to be between Henry Bennett, Charles Teed. Is going to be the fight, but behind him, I mean, it's a big fight for third, Steve. I say Jimmy Dryden, he's been able to grab that 3rd spot. However, Michael Spell's right there in 4th. David Payton now in 5th. And then right behind him still, Alec Coates is right there. Bud Steele's right there. So we got 10 to go, but we got a lot of different positions right now fighting on track.
Those guys they're fighting for 3rd spot. Are they going to go up and challenge the championship guys, or are they just going to keep battling for 3rd? Curious.
It's a very good question. You see, unfortunately, Matt Wagner, he finally has to give it up. He's going to drop to the apron. Didn't want to get impede the final these final laps here. So unfortunately, Matt's going to have to hit pit road and get that front wing replaced. Didn't get the caution he was hoping for. So right now, yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be between Henry Bennett here, Charles Teed, for the Season 7 championship. And right now, I'd say Charles is trying to see if he can find something on Henry. But right now, Henry's been holding very strong on that inside line.
Payton going back under Michael Spell, putting him into 4th place.
Yeah, so this is also now where if you're Charles Teed, you're saying, okay, you guys got to keep it clean to the end here because I need to have any and all opportunities to get around Henry Bennett. So you always needed things to kind of go your way to have chances at these things. So you see Charles, he gets a great run here off of Forsythe, gets right to the rear wing of that 007. And I'm not sure if he's rolling out of it or if he's just not able to get the pace that he needs, but say right now, I just kind of wonder. I think Charles might not be showing his whole hand, maybe trying to let Henry have a little bit of sense of just sense of comfort basically before Charles maybe makes that last big lunge at it in these final couple of laps.
I know if I'm feeling very confident about how my car's behaving, that's kind of the strategy I would be doing here. But it's hard to say. I can't tell.
Yeah, it's really tough. I was saying you never know what these guys are. Again, they're probably never showing their full hand at times. But I say right now, Henry is doing what he needs to do for the moment. We're going to come across here at the line. Steve's going to be 5 to go here at Texas. So again, there are no green-white checkers, so say at this point, if a yellow comes out, it's going to be pretty much it to the finish. So say Charles is going to be in kind of a difficult position here because, again, he's going to want to try to get to that outside of that 007 car. But right now, Henry just seems like Henry's got that inside line working really well for him. And unfortunately for Charles T, just hasn't got whatever he needs, he just hasn't been able to find so far. But you can tell he's definitely not giving it up here.
Just get through 1 and 2 a little bit better than what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. It looks like he just has to roll out of a 1 and 2 a little worse than Henry does. And I said, at some point, I think you just throw caution to the wind. You maybe bump that weight jacker up, get that car a little bit freer, where you can really get it to rotate around the exit, and maybe, like I said, try to maybe put Henry in a position where he didn't think that Charles might be here. But for Charles, though, he's going to have to make sure he keeps that clean air on the nose. But you can see just that car it's just washing out so bad in 1 and 2, and right there you can see he drops to about almost a half a second behind Henry with that having to lift out of the throttle.
Very curious if he's played with that weight jacker at all, because that push off of 2 is definitely killing him.
Yeah, I say we are up to 2 to go here, Steve. So we only got a couple more attempts here for Charles. I say it's going to really, I think it's all going to be about turns 1 and 2. If he can get that exit he needs, but you can see just so tight off of 2. He's actually opening the door here for that 99 Jimmy Dryden. Jimmy's trying to take a look as well. So right now, I say this is exactly what Henry Bennett's looking for here, because now we got a battle here for that second position. And coming out of turn number 4, Henry Bennett's going to take that white flag here. 1 more to go. And I say, unfortunately, to say that whatever's going on with that 5 car is just not working for him. He's actually going to fall back to 4th here on this final lap. So say right now, Henry Bennett, so he's just got to keep it clean here for 2 more turns, Steve, and he is going to be our Season 7 champion. So right now, it looks like all is going smoothly for Henry. Out of 4, Henry Bennett is going to be our Season 7 Indy Series champion with Area 51 Racing League. Jimmy Dryden going to bring it home in 2nd. David Payton 3rd. And unfortunately, those last couple laps, Charles Teed winds up falling back into that 4th position.
Gave it all he had. He unfortunately was not holding back. So good try there, Charles. Sorry you couldn't make a run at it there at the end.
Yeah, so he definitely gave it everything he could there, just unfortunately not quite enough. Say Henry Bennett, they talked about him being the one to watch. Say a lot of drivers kind of pointed at him right at the beginning, and say he definitely proved why that was. Here is he's going to pick up the win and the championship tonight here at Texas. Say he had a lot of competition between Matt Wagner, Craig Forsythe, Charles Teed. Say unfortunately that one caution really just completely changed the complexion of this race, but. Say Henry and Charles, they played the fuel strategy right, and say the cautions fell the way they needed it to. And say for Henry, he was able to capitalize that and get that win this evening.
Had everything break his way and drove an incredibly good race. Henry has been just an incredible competitor at every race, every type of track this season. So this is a well-deserved championship.
Yeah, definitely a hard fought one. And that's the thing is, I mean, that's who he is. He's a very tough competitor. He's very talented. We've talked to him before. He's had some really big wins as well here. So I don't think he's gonna be able to peek through there. Yeah, I was not gonna let you go there, Henry, unfortunately. However, though, what we will do is say while we're watching that the 007 car, we're gonna jump over to that 38 of David Payton. So it's a couple races in a row here, Steve. So he's been getting some podium finishes. He's been talking about wanting to kind of get those results that he's been looking for, and so he's going to get another top 3 here tonight. So let's go ahead and drag in that number 38 of David Payton. Started in 3rd, finishes in 3rd. I'll say obviously I'm sure it's kind of a tough one for you to kind of balance tonight. Obviously, trying to get the best result you can, but then of course having the championship battle as well going on. And say you were kind of around those guys all night long. I mean, what was your mindset going into that race to try to figure out, like, obviously you don't want to kind of play a role in the outcome of the championship. Of course, you're trying to get that best result for yourself in the race. I mean, what were you having to balance there tonight?
Yeah. So that's exactly it. I didn't want to. I was trying to run, a little interference for Charles and let him get a shot at the English King up there, Henry, and try and run a little defense for him. But I wanted to finish best of the rest, basically. So I kind of came into the race thinking, I'm going to obviously give all the 4 playoff drivers all the room in the world and not run them, not try and take positions from them and stuff like that. And then at the very end there, I saw that Charles had he pushed up and pretty much lost the option of taking the championship away from Henry. So I just sort of like, hey, I want to talk to the broadcasters one more time. I'm going to take this spot. Once it was decided that there was no chance he was going to catch him, I just I saw he had a bad corner. I think it was through 1 and 2, and I just got my foot in it. But otherwise, my mindset was to try and stay behind him and try and maybe help Charles get in the mix with Henry and run a little defense for him. But it was a good race. I know we got off to a rocky start with a bunch of cautions. We're trying to get used to how the car was going to handle on cold tires through 1 and 2. It was really skittish and loose, but once everybody settled down, it was really good. And big congratulations to Henry for both his win and his championship tonight.
Did you make any adjustments to the car during the race, and how did it feel overall?
Yeah, so I did at first. I didn't, like, I was starting on cold tires. I was it was pretty much stock the way that it came out of the box, and then I would put a little bit of weight jacker in after a couple laps if I was in traffic to help with that, and then it would started to push real bad on entry into 1 and 2. So I lowered the front bar a click. But this track is always hard because ever since I reconfigured it, for any car, I don't care what car it is, if you're trying to do a setup for it, one side's completely different from the other. So it'll be good on one side and garbage on the other, or vice versa. So this is one of those tracks where you're always kind of battling a condition on one end or the other. It doesn't matter. And turn 1 and 2 here is always the tricky one. It's hard it pushes, and then it snaps loose, or it might push again. Who knows? It's 50-50 what the car is going to do. So I was just trying to, take it corner by corner. But I made some adjustments to help with the draft and loosen up the front end a little bit. And also on cold tires, I was trying to tighten the thing up overall with less weight jacker.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Steve.
So were you feeling it on cold tires? Were you feeling it trying to come around, coming off of 2?
Oh yeah. It was pretty scary. I think you probably noticed. I was extra afraid going through because every restart I noticed that anybody in front of me pulled away. I mean, I would short shift from 4th into 5th just to keep the torque down and ginger the car through 1 and 2. The first couple of restarts we had, it almost got sideways on me a few times. So ever since there, I was being real careful through 1 and 2, and then then hammering down after I get through the first lap.
A couple guys that lost it coming off of 2, and one lost it on the inside, one lost it on the outside. And then we had the same thing happen to at least one person coming off of 4. So it was interesting to watch from the in cars because, it didn't look like they were like they felt it starting to come around and were counter steering. It's like it looked like they were steering perfectly, and then all of a sudden it would just jump out from under them.
It's IndyCar things happen really, really fast in this thing. It's by the time you notice it, a lot of the times, by the time you notice the back end coming around, it's too late. So you always have to try and preempt it a little bit, or try and get ahead of the slide as quickly as you can. That's the trick to saving them. So, but yeah, it was a little scary, but it was a really good race. Another really fun race with Area 51.
So I guess I have to ask one more thing, and then I'll turn it back to Guile. Does this qualify for some hot chocolate?
I don't know if we have any, but I do know that there's some trout sitting out there waiting for me. So I'm gonna go have some trout after this.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just an awesome job, I say, David. That's like I said, these last couple races. I mean, you've been really kind of on your game a bunch lately. So, I mean, first off, like I said, congrats tonight on the third place. Like I said, working as well as you could, try to help Charles out there at the end. But like you said, yeah, Henry's just he's a tough customer, and it looked like you and Charles, you guys had the strategy down to say, I was wondering at one point if Matt and Craig and Henry were going to kind of run themselves out of fuel before they could get into that final pit stop window. Then we saw Henry; he was able to stretch his fuel before that yellow came out. He was kind of in the same sequence as you guys there. Was that kind of your thought on that coming towards that last restart, or second to last restart, I guess, at that point? Were you watching the fuel number to basically, okay, we want to make sure we get to this number to be able to kind of go full rich to the end?
Yeah, I mean, I was always keeping an eye on it, but I was way over fueled, and I kind of lost awareness of what happened with Craig and Matt after I know they got trapped, or one of them at least got trapped with that caution that came out during a pit cycle. So for me, I mean, it was never a question. I had more than enough fuel. I was like 2 gallons over. But I mean, full rich tonight. I mean, you could probably do, and I was lifting a lot in traffic, so I mean, I could make 35. 37 laps on a tank of fuel, and I was well within that window. So fuel wasn't really much of a factor tonight for me, anyway.
Okay, yeah, so that, yeah, it sounds, yeah, like you're saying, it definitely sounds like the numbers were a lot better in the dirty air for sure there. I guess the other side of that too would be, was there any thoughts on kind of the way that caution feels like, hey, I don't want to be the first of the leaders to pit, because I mean, you're going 220 plus. I mean, you're doing 24-second laps here at Texas. And unfortunately, so we saw the contact on the pit road entry there for a couple of the drivers. Was that part of the strategy as well, to try to run a little bit further, just to kind of not be that first one? Because again, these things, it's so easy to get put a lap down under green flag cycle.
Yeah, I learned that. I got slapped a few times this season. I think at least once or twice, and so I was going to run it out. For if it was a green flag, a full cycle, I was just going to run it until I had 1 lap left, and that was when I was going to pit. And I sort of decided that, regardless of what the leaders do, I figured that I'm just going to play the safe card. So it wasn't like I was trying to pull strategy on anybody else. I just kind of decided I'm going to pit at the last. I'm going to run it till it's dry and pit then, and I just happened to get lucky with by waiting, and then the caution came out, so it worked out well for me. But that was pretty much my mindset going in. Just run it out. If it's a green flag cycle, just run it out until you got to pit.
Yes, I honestly, I'd probably be in the same boat as you. I just feel like with these races, especially with these cars, like I said, just maybe with a cup car, you might be able to make a pit stop and not get thrown a lap down, especially if you're right up front. But with these cars, like I said, you're just going so fast. I mean, it's almost an instant lap down. So I think I would have been sharing the same game plan there. So, but I mean, yeah, just another great job for you tonight, David. I say hopefully the consistency and the kind of the role you'll go on will kind of move you forward into season 8, because we don't know exactly what we got in store for tracks and playoffs or what's going to be in store, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll be seeing you again here soon in a few more weeks.
Yeah, well, that may be an issue, actually, because I have there's another league that I run with some other friends of mine, a short track league, and I'm going to be starting up trying to get a dirt series going with the dirt late model, and I may have to run it on Tuesday nights. So there's a possibility that this could have been my last race with Area 51. I'm going to try really hard to not, make it not, because I really have grown to like this league and this crew, and I have a lot of fun racing this series in particular. But we'll see. At least if I can move it to a different night, I'm going to do that, and then leave Tuesday open. It kind of depends on broadcasters at this point in their schedules, but hopefully I'll be back for next season. I'll at least try and make an appearance for 1 or 2 races.
Well, I'll say worst case scenario. Hopefully, I'll say it's always good to finish off with a good finish. With your top 3 tonight. I'll say, however, I think Steve's probably checking some hot cocoa prices, trying to see if he can work on some bribery to keep you over for season 8.
Yeah, I'm really bummed. I'm actually really a lot more bummed than I sound about not the possibility of not being able to run the Indy cars with the boys anymore. But I'm going to try. I'll try and find a broadcaster that can do it on a different night, maybe Monday night or something like that. I'll try and keep Tuesdays open for myself.
We'd definitely miss having you if you had to not run on Tuesdays. But I may possibly have a broadcaster that's free on Mondays. So get with me after after we're done.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Awesome. For sure.
It's all coming together. I love when the plan comes
It's
together.
It's all coming together. I'm back. I'm back in Area 51 IndyCar series.
All right. Well, before we let you go, though, David, I'll say another great performance though for you tonight. We got definitely give you the floor though for thanks and shouts that I could get for that run tonight.
Well, of course, obviously, the first one's got to go to the league and the admins and the job they do and the work they do. It's all the admins volunteer their free time to do this, and just to create a competitive and good environment for us to compete in and have fun on Tuesday nights and all the nights of the week that Area 51 runs. So, thank you to them and putting it all together for us. Thank you to you guys for broadcasting for us, and me realizing that I've been pronouncing your name wrong for 2 seasons now. Guile, I've been calling you Gail, so Guile, thank you. And Steve, did I do that? Is that right, Guile?
Yeah,
it's Guile,
you're good.
Right?
Well, I say don't feel bad because I mean I still hear a lot of David Pattons for you. So we know how it is. I'll say we kind of we feel each other's pain.
All right, awesome. Yeah, well, thank you to you guys for your work and the things you do, Steve. I'll be in touch with you after this race. Thank you, of course, to Natalie, my better half, who's cooking dinner for me while I'm driving virtual race cars. I mean, it don't get much better than that,
Something like that. All I have is a cat.
Yeah. Good luck getting your cat to cook you dinner, Steve.
Thanks. Yeah, all she does is nag me for food.
Well, thanks again, guys. A lot of fun, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys again soon.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, great job, David. Yeah, we'll definitely we'll try to make some things happen to get you over here next season. So you're not going to get rid of us that easy.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right, so that is our third place finisher of David Payton. Now we got to jump over to our second place driver, Steve. That is going to be the 99 of Jimmy Dryden. I think for Jimmy here, I mean that's got to be the recovery drive of the night for anybody here tonight. Say you were fast all night, Jimmy. We saw you kind of up there challenging with those leaders, and then unfortunately, say that turn 2 on the cold tires, it bit you as a few other drivers here tonight. Then you're able to get that lap back. I think maybe even 2 laps back, if I'm not mistaken, and then somehow work your way back up through the field and grab that second spot. I mean, take us through your night because obviously a very eventful one for you.
Yeah, it was. Coming off at 2, my screen actually went blank. That's what caused that whole deal, and I couldn't get my screen to come back up, so I had to disconnect and then reconnect, and it took forever to reconnect, and that's how I lost the 2 laps. But the setup was good for Matt. It was basically just a gas it and go kind of race, It was one of them deals where I don't know about anybody else, but I was changing my weight jacker from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4, as well as my fuel settings, and it was quite fun to be able to just drive all out and make it all the way back up to second after being 2 laps down.
Changing them every lap?
Yes.
Oh my God. That's like, for me, that's like too much to think about.
It was it caught me off guard a couple of laps where I would forget where I was at, and then I would have to look down at the weight jacker settings to see where I was to get back to where it needed to be.
Yeah, that's what I would have to do also. Jimmy, I gotta commend you, not just for being all the way at the back, having that bad luck, but for sticking it out for one thing, and for another thing, I mean, we've seen you be fast on a lot of the other tracks also, and inevitably something bad happens and you end up out of a podium finish that you probably could have had. So to see you earn it tonight, great job.
It's very gratifying. Thanks. It's more times than none. I get a little too over aggressive, and I just had to back myself down a couple of times when I was getting loose coming off at 2, and make sure my weight jacker was right and just stay in the draft, because I actually did tap the wall after I used my fast repair, so I was a little bit down on straightaway speed when I wasn't in the draft. So
No, he did a good job keeping it in one piece, and I was saying to be able to fight like you were, because it was obviously Henry and Charles were fighting hard there with about 5-10 to go, and then I mean it was just an all-out brawl there for third on back for a little while, and then we saw you were in there, Charles Teed, Michael Spell, Alec Coates. You guys are all going hard for that top 3, and then obviously at the very end you could tell Charles' car just unfortunately kind of fell off at the end there. But yeah, I mean, you did a great job of working through there. I'm sure there's a little bit of like, oh man, if not for the screen issue to be able to be in contention, maybe even kind of go after the win there with Henry. But was that something you were kind of balancing the aggression of course you want to get the best result you can, but knowing the championship battle as well? I mean, how are you trying to balance that one tonight?
Most definitely. I mean, I was faster than Charles and Henry. I was just waiting, letting them race it out, and then I waited probably 2 laps too long. Finally, Charles went high in 3 and 4, and I held the bottom and got by him, but it was probably 1 or 2 laps short to get by Henry.
So it was a great way to finish off season 7. So hopefully we'll see you back here for season 8. Though definitely, it looks like you've definitely got the speed to contend with some of these guys here. So I won't put you in the spot yet to verify if you're going to run or not next season. However, I am going to put you on the spot for those to give you the floor though for any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for that second place run tonight.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, first and foremost, Jim Brooks for putting this on with Area 51 and Dark Horse IndyCar League, and I will be back with Area 51 as well as Dark Horse. And thank you guys for broadcasting.
Happy to hear that. I'll definitely be looking forward to racing with you over there on the Wednesdays. I know that's been, very different cars drive the DW12s to these IR18s, but both their own fun challenges in their own ways for sure.
Oh, definitely. You guys have a great night.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you very much.
All right, Steve. We only got one person left, and I'm trying to remember what was the term there that David pulled for? Was it the King of England? Or
something
along those lines. Yeah. Well, we'll pull Henry, and I'll say I don't know if he's got a nickname that he wants to kind of deem himself, and I have to be careful not to offend anybody, but I'll say you're kind of being deemed royalty over here from some of your other drivers there, just with the performance you've been putting on week in and week out. Able to cap it off here with that season 7 championship. So I mean, I guess first take us through the first portion of the race. Let's say you and Matt were having a really good battle there. We saw at one point Matt was able to sneak around you. So we'll start with that one. Was that him just able to kind of get your tires a little bit more worn than his, or I noticed there was a car in front of you guys. Was that just maybe a little bit of dirty air that kind of cost you that lead there at the beginning?
Yeah, Matt was really putting me under pressure, keeping me very honest. But as long as I had clean air, I could pretty much hold the bottom okay and cover the bottom out of 2, because if you can't hold the bottom out of 2, then if the guy can get underneath you for 3, then you've lost that position. But yeah, with that tiny bit of dirty air, and then the lap car also gave Matt a bit of a draft down the back straight on the high side, because Matt was above me. I couldn't move to gain any of that draft myself. So yeah, it gave Matt the lead, but yeah, he was putting me under a lot of pressure. So yeah, it's if he was only like 0.1 or 0.2 back behind me, I would have had space to use that lap car to my advantage. But because he was putting me under so much pressure, it paid off when that lap car came around.
I think some strategy and some, I'll say a little bit of some wiliness from you as well, Henry, there on that long green flag run where we got the green flag pit stop cycle. We saw you up there fighting early, and then at one point it kind of looked like you rolled out there, you let Craig go on by. Was that strategy as well for you? You're looking at the fuel numbers, maybe thinking, hey, if I can stretch that extra lap, that could come into play there with the race?
Well, I can't take much credit for the fuel because I was kind of forced to save fuel once I got back into third, because there's nothing you can do about when you're in the dirty air. I'd love to have gone full throttle all the way around the track, but you have to lift when you're in that much dirty air, otherwise I'll be in the wall. But yeah, it's, I don't know if it showed on broadcast or not, but Matt had a little bit of difficulty with his connection, blinked out a couple of times, and the second time he blinked out, I kind of had to cover the bottom, because if he blinked out permanently, and Craig took the bottom, then that would be Craig's position. There's nothing I could do about it if that would happen. So I took the bottom, but then Matt popped back in the server right in front of me, and I just got a face full of dirty air and had to lift, and Craig could go around me. So that was my bad luck, a bit of bad luck with the lap traffic early, and then bad luck with that. But I guess I got really, really lucky when it came to the pit stops. it's never great to be the first people to pit on an oval where you go a lap down when you pit, because there's always a risk of cautions around green flag pit cycles, especially when you have to slow down off the banking and you got fast cars coming towards you when you're slowing down. So it's always a risk. So it's always a good strategy to try and go longer, pit after everyone else, just in case.
How many more laps could you have gone when that yellow came out?
2 more laps after that caution.
Wow. Okay.
So you're able to save a lot of fuel there as well, then, Henry.
I mean, once I was back in third and realised I couldn't do anything about Matt or Craig, I did put it into fuel map 3 and then fuel map 5. Fuel map 5 was probably a bit too much. I lost a bit of ground to the leading 2, so I put it back into fuel map 1 to close the gap again, and then back to fuel map 3 once I was in the gap and could find little bits of clean air here and there to kind of get a grip at the front end of the car and try and keep up with them. But yeah, the amount you have to lift when you're in dirty air just means you save so much automatically.
Yeah.
That may have done you a little bit of favor with those connection issues, because once you backed off, and we were watching that, and I wasn't sure if you had backed off just because you were concerned that he might come back in and land on top of your car, or if he had just startled you and you had to back out of it, or you had said, you know what, I'm not dealing with this, I'm going to drop back a little bit. But in any case, that put you back to third, like you said, and then you were able to go into fuel saving mode, and I think that turned out to be the savior.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I say, a couple of bits of bad luck got me back into third, but like you say, it turned out to be a good thing. But if we did have the green flag pit cycle and I came back out in third, then I would have been stuck in third really, and it would have been either Craig's or Matt's to fight it out. So yeah, that was really unfortunate for them because they were driving so well today, like they have done all season. So that's I don't like to see them lose out on a really bad luck like that.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. The perfect championship is when all 4 guys are battling it out from the start to the finish, which we certainly as broadcasters would love to have seen. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way.
But that's the nature of the racing with the ovals and cautions. There's so much strategy involved that a lot of the calls are gambles. Like if I'd made a conscious call to drop back to third to save fuel, that would have been a big gamble because if there was a caution and we had to pit under caution, I'd still be stuck in third and I'd have no way to get around these guys. So every call is a gamble.
Yeah.
It's gone badly for me before. Like Dover, I was leading the first stint and I had to be the first one to pit, but then I was the one that caused the incident there trying to pit. So there's so much luck involved that I can't really claim that the title is down to me. It's down to a lot of luck.
Yeah, definitely, it's a combination of luck and good decisions and incredible driving, which has been your hallmark all year. I can only think of one race where I think you made a really fatal mistake, and I forget what track it was. But other than that, I mean, you've just been on it every single race.
Yeah, I can remember them. New Hampshire and Dover. Yeah, so it seems like the short ovals are where I tend to make most of my mistakes. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I always put a lot of practice into getting a good grid position because that puts you in a good position for the race. Because if you're up at the front, you got less likely to be caught in an accident or something. Fewer cars ahead of you. But then like I say, you're using more fuel, so that's the trade-off.
Yeah, no, you're right, exactly right. I mean, there's a big balance between, like you said, the kind of using the fuel and being up front or saving fuel and being in the back, but in a dirty air, and it's a really big balance to do. But I say Steve had actually talked to a couple of guys. We mentioned one of the drivers we talked to was Jimmy Dryden in second. He said he actually was changing his weight jacker and some of his settings, basically 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, kind of adjusting them per turn. Were you having to do similar when you were in that dirty air, or how are you trying to manage that on your side?
I mean, at some points it was, but generally I left it at default most of the time. Like at the start of the stints on cold tires, the car was really loose, so I'd go negative weight jacker for that. In clean air, I was going slightly negative, just to guard against the car getting loose off of turn 2, which is really easy to do. But dirty air, I wasn't really changing it that much. But I can see why you would. But I think in the championship position I was in, you don't really want to take risks, and I would kind of guess that Jimmy, with less to lose, could be a bit more aggressive with the tools.
Yeah, definitely very possible. But I mean, just overall, just awesome job all season long, Henry. I'll say obviously some of the guys, as soon as they knew you were joining the server, like the league, they're like, yeah, okay, he's gonna be one to watch to compete with and be able to battle with the championship. And so you definitely held them honest there tonight. But again, great job overall all season long. I say you got the job done tonight as well. I say you kind of work the strategies. Like I said, I mean, to win these races, to win these championships, it's going to be a combo of everything. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be luck played into it. But I mean, you got to put yourself in those positions to be able to capitalize on those situations and things of that nature. So, I say sometimes the things roll your way, sometimes they don't. But I say you're able to kind of put it all together tonight and pull off that win and the championship. And so I don't know what the exchange rate is going to be for that season prize for that championship, but I'm sure you'll be getting some money your way though for that season 7 championship. So yeah, congrats on that one, Henry. I'll say well earned, hard fought, and hopefully we'll be seeing you again here soon.
Thanks, Gal. I don't think the exchange rate is that great at the moment. I think it's been going down for quite a few years, but I'll take it. It's like, that's a really nice bonus. But the best thing about this title is just being able to race with these guys. Like one of the best leagues I've been part of, and everyone's been amazing competition all year. Charles, he had a great run at the start of the season. Matt, he's always there. Chad, Craig, he really came strong towards the end of the season. So yeah, it's really great competition, and it's probably going to be even harder next season.
Yeah, so I don't see it getting any easier for any of you guys for season 8 for sure there. So maybe you can convince them, like, hey, instead of doing an exchange rate, maybe look at doing do the iRacing money that way. That way you can just put the money straight back into cars and tracks and things of that nature, or your membership as well. But that being said, though, Henry, again, I mean, great job all season long. However, though, before I let you go, definitely got to give you the floor. So I know you've got some team members and some groups that you work with for the win tonight and for that championship.
I mean, first of all, of course, just thank the league and just do an amazing job. Always, everything is run perfectly. Races go really well. All the league members, everyone's really respectful and really made me feel welcome. You guys, I really enjoy the broadcast. Like I've said before, that you really know your strategy, but it's you watch a lot of broadcasts and they really don't know what's going on. But you guys, you really keep on top of everything that's going on, and you call everything, better than we do on track. So big shout out to you guys. I'm really enjoying those broadcasts. I thank my team, Powerslide Motorsports. This week is probably the hardest work of the year because it's the qualifying for the iRacing official Indy 500. So we're all working hard trying to get a car good enough to qualify for that, and helping each other out, making sure we all know what we're doing. We're all getting the most out of the car. So yeah, big shout out to them. They're been with them. They've actually been my only team since I started on iRacing. So really appreciate what they do, and can't imagine not being a part of the team.
Thanks for that compliment. And and to people who are watching, iRacing does full-length Indy 500s 2 weekends in a row. This past weekend was with fixed setups, which is a lot easier from a technical point of view. But obviously, you have to learn how to drive the setup better than everybody else because everyone has the same setup. What Henry's talking about this weekend is open setups, which is a ton of work to have to adjust. There's so many things you can adjust, springs and shocks and all that stuff to try and make your car the best. And then, of course, you have to drive it well, too. So that's a lot of work this week.
Well, I don't know if you guys have seen, I think Gail might have seen, iRacing actually released an open setup that is almost as good as what most of the top teams are running. So they've thrown a curveball at us, so we're going to have to work extra hard to get up in the qualifying this week.
Yeah, so they definitely kind of threw a wrench in your guys' plans. You're going to have to, like you said, you have to step up your game that little bit more. But I say, from what we've seen from you, Henry, I say I wouldn't put it past you and your team to be able to do so. So I'll say able to obviously enjoy this one for a little bit. Then I know you're going to be going full focus on the Indy 500. So good luck for sure on that one as well. But yeah, for tonight though, or I guess this morning for you, enjoy this one. And I say we look forward to catching you here pretty soon on Season 8, sir.
Thanks, Gail. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, really looking forward to next season.
Yeah, you're welcome. Looking forward to seeing you compete for another one. Congrats on the championship and the race win.
Thank you.
All right, Steve, that is our Season 7 champion, Henry Bennett. So he jumped in and he pretty much showed that he was going to be one to contend with right off the get-go. Contender in a lot of races. It was hard to compete with Charles Teed winning those 3 off right off the get-go. He got that first one over at the road course at Rhode Island, and then from there, he pretty much hit his stride right at the end of the regular season and do the same thing right at the very end of the playoffs, getting the last 2 wins of those playoffs. So that being said, we got to go over our final results for tonight. So Henry Bennett winning the race and the championship tonight, able to hold off Jimmy Dryden and David Payton. Charles Teed, he gave it his all, just didn't seem like he had couldn't find that balance he needed compared to some of the guys that he was racing with tonight. But definitely put on a really good fight all season long. He's going to finish in 4th tonight. Alec Coates in the 5th position. We got Bud Steele in 6th, Michael Spell 7th, Gary Corley in 8th, and unfortunately we mentioned Craig Forsythe, Matt Wagner. It's going to be one of those what could have been races for those guys. Let's say just the caution coming out at the wrong time for them. They'll be thinking, man, if that caution came out just 1 lap sooner, we'd be right in that mix with Henry going for that title. So unfortunately, I'd say that's kind of the risk versus reward on these winner take all type playoff situations. Unfortunately, it wound up biting those 2 tonight.
Yeah, definitely, and I feel bad for their bad luck. Those guys have run so incredibly well this year, and Craig especially from what he had to come back from. But I wonder, did they absolutely have to pit on that lap, or could they have gone another lap and maybe avoided the disaster that happened?
Yeah, that's gonna be a good question. We'll definitely have to look into that for future stuff. But 11th through 18th, you got Dwight Plesch, Anders Arhus, Ivan Pla, Jack Walls, James Ledford, Benjamin Combs, Jim Brooks, and John Brill. Those drivers not having the nights they were looking for. It was definitely a difficult one for these drivers. There was a lot of attrition tonight. This track was definitely a pretty tough combo for these drivers to try to navigate this evening. All right, Steve. So that is Season 7 in the books. It feels like we've started Season 6 not that long ago. But we've got a couple seasons under our belts. We'll be back in a few more weeks. We got a couple weeks off. We'll be back again strong for Season 8. Going to try a few new little things, little upgrades, additions over the course of that off season. So hopefully we'll have it all ready for you guys by then. But yeah, Steve, as always, just another amazing season by these guys, and I couldn't be having any more fun doing this with you week in and week out.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that. I'm obviously having a tremendous amount of fun doing this with you also, and hopefully honing my skills and becoming a better broadcaster as we go, because I was a rookie when we started, and I feel like I'm starting to get it.
Nah, I say no problems on my side. I think you've been doing awesome. And I say, and it sounds like we might be able to be some race strategists as well. I say, if this broadcasting thing doesn't work out, maybe we could get hired by some of these drivers and be able to call some pit strategy for these guys. It sounds like we might be onto something there as well.
Definitely.
All right. Well, so I hope you all enjoyed the race tonight, and of course, really want to thank you all for supporting the league and the channel here with Green White Checker TV. So it's a lot of fun to do, and it really helps to have you guys on YouTube and chatting with us and interacting with us. It just makes it so much fun. So we'll be back again with Area 51 for Season 8. We're definitely looking forward to that one. But we've got still 2 more races of Season 7 left to go. We've got the Cup season finale next weekend. On Thursday at Phoenix. We got those 4 drivers in there. And then we got 4 drivers as well for the season finale of the Super Speedway Series on Sundays. That'll be at Talladega. So those are going to be the last 2 races for Season 7. Like I said, a couple weeks off, then we'll be back strong here for Season 8 with the Area 51 Racing League. So for those that aren't familiar, I say if you're interested in the league, if you want to run Indy cars on Tuesday nights, the Cup cars on Thursdays, or the Xfinity cars at the Super Speedways on Sundays, you can find info at area51iracing.com. We'll have some spots open for everybody. We definitely would love to get some new names, new faces, and have some fun. A lot of good, hard, clean racing with these guys. So until then, Steve, again, thank you as always. And for everybody else, I'm going to have to change something because things are starting to open back up. But for now, we're going to stick with what I know best. And that is, if you're able to, as always, try to stay home, stay safe, but most importantly, definitely wash your hands. And until Thursday, have a good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.